And that's what opened my eyes to say, wow, if I can stack and acquire assets at a young age, I can set myself up truly for financial freedom. So I bought my first duplex when I was 19 years old. And it's kind of the sky's the limit from there. I ultimately, that deal cash flowed. And I was like, wow, if I can just acquire these assets and truly build my wealth through real estate. So that's
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Total Wealth Academy video podcast. We do have two podcasts. One is the radio show that we do almost every day of the week, and the video podcast. And what I try to do is bring you the top people, top investors from really around the country that are helping people change their lives. They're changing their lives, and of course, helping others change their lives as well. And it comes down to the simple principle that you got to imitate successful people. And I try to bring you successful people that you can relate to. This one may be a little tough because this kid has done some incredible things at a very, very young age, but it makes you question what you're doing with your life. What are you doing? And this kid has done some incredible things. He's a new member of Total Wealth Academy. His achievements he has done pretty much on his own, but he's here to share the story of what he has done and why he has done it. And I think the why is the most important part. So let's welcome Connor Kinney to the podcast. Connor, thanks a lot for calling in today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to it.
Let's start off with this. The average person has a map to success, and their map to success is work real hard in high school, go to college, get a job, work for 45 years, retire, live off your savings. You chose not to do that. Now, tell us a little bit about why you chose not to do that. How did you get to the point? Well, let's tell the people first, how many units do you own? What have you purchased so far?
I own about 37 units. I bought and sold about $10 million worth of real estate. My portfolio is a little north of $5 million. So,
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah.
Well, why didn't you just go get a job?
So when I graduated high school, it was pounded into you, hey, you have to go to college. You've got to get this 4-year degree that's supposed to give you a lifetime of freedom. And Steve, that was not the case. That was not the case. And I quickly realized that and decided to drop out of college. And I was like, hey, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to go create something for myself and forge my own path. And ultimately, I knew about real estate, but I've never had any family or friends in real estate. But real estate was something where I knew you didn't necessarily need a college degree. And so I actually worked for a real estate investor for a couple years, and I kind of was boots on the ground for him, managing his properties, doing some development for him, and just working on the investment side of things. And that's what opened my eyes to say, wow, if I can stack and acquire assets at a young age, I can set myself up truly for financial freedom. So I bought my first duplex when I was 19 years old, and it's kind of the sky's the limit from there. I ultimately, that deal cash flowed, and I was like, wow, if I can just acquire these assets and truly build my wealth through real estate. So that's how I got started.
And this guy ended up being your mentor of
Yep.
sorts.
Yep. Yeah. And that was very valuable. He was in the business. And so it taught me, it was almost like that was my college education, was working for him, because I understood, hey, how do you lease a rental property? What do you look for? How do you cold call? What do you say when you talk to sellers when you're at their property? So different things like that that really were crucial to my success and I still use today. And ultimately, I've helped build my portfolio.
Yeah, I know that when I started accumulating mentors, it changed everything for me as well, because it shocked me that everything I knew about money was ineffective. Um, and what these guys were doing was so different from what I was taught to do that it just woke me up. So having a mentor really does change your life. Um, the your you said 38 doors?
37 doors.
37 doors. Now, one of those is a little apartment, right?
It is. Yep. I've got a 12 unit apartment, and that's been super fun. My biggest deal yet, I just closed on a 29 unit deal, which was super fun. So trying to scale up and get into some bigger multifamily.
Yeah, one of the things that I want you to do now, this is, talking as a mentor. Um, I want you to take my Saturday class because I want to show you how I help people buy 150 unit apartment complexes.
Yeah.
I helped quite a few people do that to scale up. And there's a lot of people that, because of your credibility, would be willing to help you. In other words, help you put up the money.
Yep.
So get into that Saturday class as quickly as you can. Um, let's talk a little bit about your quality of lifestyle.
Yeah.
This one is shocking because people have a tendency to think that owning rental real estate, you're working all the time, it's late night phone calls, it's all this crap, which is not true. Tell them
No.
a little bit about your lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm very active, and this is one thing that I think is really cool that you guys preach is not only how do you build wealth, but how do you have a healthy lifestyle? Because ultimately, you can build all the wealth you want, but if you're not healthy, if you don't have a great lifestyle, you're not going to be able to sustain that wealth, and it's going to take a drain on you mentally, and that's not good. So I mean, I'm very active. I set my boundaries with my rental properties. I manage my portfolio, so it's kind of a 9 to 5 job, quote unquote. And then I do a lot of activities. I love pickleball. I love running. I love spending time at other networking events, being on podcasts, just learning from other people, because that's really what fills my cup. The real estate is fun just because you know that's kind of your nest egg. But ultimately, what I love to do is be active, enjoy, and I mean, just soak up the education and learn as much as possible.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of like exercise. People will say, I don't exercise because I'm too tired at the end of the day. No, you're too tired at the end of the day because you don't exercise.
Yep,
And it's a
exactly.
vicious cycle that gets people caught up in not taking care of themselves. Well,
Yep.
it's the same thing with real estate. People are like, well, I don't own real estate because it consumes a bunch of time. No, you don't have the time because you don't own any real estate.
You're speaking my language. Exactly right. Exactly right. And I also think a lot of it comes down to priorities too. You know, if you look at your calendar day and you say, hey, what am I spending the most time on? That ultimately is what your priorities are. And this is something that hit me recently is I'm going, hey, what are truly my priorities? Because I'm in real estate, which is a big priority. I work out, that's a huge priority. So making sure that those things line up because ultimately everybody has the same hours in a day, but it's dependent on you to say, hey, what's most important to me? And that should be health, your wealth, your family. Those three things should come forefront. And ultimately, that's how you should decide how you spend your day. It's very important to put those priorities first.
Yeah, put the big rocks in first if you're familiar with Stephen Covey and the
Yep.
seven
Yeah.
habits of highly effective people. You got to put the big things in first. Otherwise, the minutia will take over your life. It really will. I talk to people all the time that are, you know, guys, it's brutal to say, but they're broke and they're going to 3 baseball games a week. It's like skip a baseball game and read a book on how to build wealth. Their priority is just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure.
Yep.
And that destroys you over time. Those habits of just going for the pleasure and not having any work in your life. Work is your friend, and you've got to prioritize it, but you've got to incorporate the health, the family, the charity, all the other parts of a balanced life.
Yep. And stay disciplined too. You got to stay disciplined to understand, hey, this is, a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. I mean, whether it's calling sellers for an hour and then trying to find deals that'll set you up for the rest of your life, or it's, hey, I'm going to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes in the gym every morning, but that 30 to 45 minutes is going to help me feel so much better throughout my day and throughout the rest of my life. And so I think if you can flip the switch from just saying, oh, this is an inconvenience, I don't want to do this, to say, hey, I have to do this because this is going to set me up for my future self.
Yeah, we've got a member. He's got about ridiculous amount of cash. I think $7 million cash. He's only 24 or 25, but he trains 4 or 5 days a week. And I said, and I'm talking like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And I said, well, why do you do that? Just to get his opinion? He goes, because it makes everything else easier. If I go in there and I push myself at the gym, then dealing with tenants is nothing.
Yep.
Dealing with my mortgage broker is nothing compared to the pain and the suffering at
Yeah.
the gym.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing really good.
That's
Very
incredible.
sharp guy. I think he's putting his money into apartment complexes now.
I love it. Awesome.
Um, what do you, let's go over. I like to ask everybody what their favorite book is.
Yeah. My favorite book, I mean, this is pretty basic, but it got me in the real estate business, and that's Rich Dad Poor Dad by
Oh,
Robert Kiyosaki. And really, it just it reframed my mind to think differently and say, hey, now every time I look at an asset, you say, hey, how can I buy income generating assets? And it's changed my life because now I own them. And it's like, wow, this is incredible. But just that book flipped the switch on my brain. And so I think if everyone could just read a couple pages of the book, they'd be better off. I mean, it's such valuable information that they don't teach. They're not teaching that in high school. They're sure not teaching it in college. And so if some of these, especially if you're younger, if you can really dissect the principles in that book and understand, hey, how to make money work for you, not work for it, how to generate recurring revenue with real estate, I mean, it's just a game changer.
yeah. And he has a way of explaining it that to me, everyone can understand. Now, he does have a couple of books where he's over the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he gets deep, deep, deep into it. But Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you read it, I don't think I don't think it's over anybody's head.
No. And that's what I really like is he explains it in a third grade mindset, which I really like. So anyone can understand it. There's pictures, and that's ultimate. I mean, that's what I like about it is it's very simple to do, and it's the playbook is there, and it really just it flips your mind to just understand, hey, how do the wealthy think? It's like you're getting a little key to a wealthy person's mind and getting to look inside their brain and say, oh, this is how they think. They look at assets, they look at liabilities differently. It's just very interesting. Anyone, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's again Rich Dad Poor Dad by
Poor Dad,
Robert Kiyosaki.
Robert
That's
Kiyosaki.
on our reading list. It's actually my second favorite book. My favorite book is The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey.
Yep.
Um, but anybody that would like to get our reading list that includes Rich Dad Poor Dad, go to totalwealthacademy.com/books with an S, totalwealthacademy.com/books with an S, and that will get you started. There's even a free copy of The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason at that site that you can download to get started. Um, I guess I should ask, have you read The Richest Man in Babylon?
I have not. I've read, okay, I've The Millionaire Mind, The Millionaire Next Door, but I have not. That's one on my list. So that would be a good one.
Yeah, it's phenomenal because it's written in parable format.
Yeah.
So it's all stories. And by the time you finish the story, you realize you've learned a valuable lesson about money. And you don't even realize it when you're reading it. It's just like a movie,
Yeah. It's like
like
a
you're
good
watching a
story.
movie. And then the next thing you know, oh my God, I got to buy income producing assets.
That that's my kind of format right there. So that'll be on the list.
Yeah, it's good. Um, are you aware that 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65?
I believe it. That's a sad stat. It really is, and that's one of the things that I see day to day. I see people I think probably going in that category, and that's one thing that motivates me to keep buying real estate. I did not know it was that high, but if that's true, that is very sad.
Yeah, the average savings for a 65-year-old in the US is 400 grand. Well, the women are living 20 years in retirement. You
Yep.
divide 400 grand by 20 years, that's 20 grand a year. Nobody's retiring on 20 grand a year.
Way.
It's
No.
just not happening. And there is an idea, and we used it, which is if you want to succeed, all you have to do is study the 5%. Say, okay, okay, great, 95% failed to successfully retire. Well, what are the 5% doing different? And I think your choice of book explains it. They're buying those income producing assets.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
It's a
it's
mix
like
of,
the Monopoly game. If you played Monopoly and all you did was circle the board and collect your 200 bucks, you're never going to win the game. You got to buy real estate. You got to buy the railroads. You got to buy the utilities. You got to buy income producing assets. Um, this is personal. You don't have to answer it. But my parents struggled all their lives and they both retired broke. Um, what does it look like for your family? Are they listening to you? Are they beginning to do things that you're doing?
I will say I have an incredible family, Steve. I hit the jackpot on the family. My
Excellent.
my parents have done well. My dad has bought and sold a few of his companies, which has been incredible to see. He's a big entrepreneur himself. His parents
Nice.
did not do very well. So he kind of broke the family chain and said, he's really been the first one to encourage, my siblings and our family to go after what you want. I have two sisters and a younger brother. We all have our own businesses. And so we all encourage each other. Every Thanksgiving dinner, we're talking about business ideas. And so they've been very encouraging to me. And as I said, I know a lot of people, and it makes me sad that their parents don't support them buying their real estate or going to start a business or doing something that's not go to college and then work 40 years. But I really hit the jackpot on the family. They haven't given me any resources or anything like that, but just their encouragement has really motivated me to go after what I want. And I actually got to bring them to my first closing on the 29 unit deal, which was super fun. It was kind of a full circle moment there.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, that's very powerful to have that type of support system in place. Most people do not, and that's where Total Wealth Academy comes in, is they join here and they kind of get around successful people, people that will encourage them. I think it's important, especially, I'll tell you a story, Connor, about a guy named Bruce Richards. Now,
Okay.
Bruce Richards had 60 rent houses. He joined the group, and I remember asking him, I go, Bruce, you're already massively successful. Why are you joining our group? And he goes, because it's lonely. Nobody understands what I'm doing. Nobody believes in it. Everybody's negative about it. And when I joined your group, I'm now hanging out with people who are successful, just like me, and I can get the support that I need. And really, it does help you thrive when you've got that type of support system.
I agree. Yeah, I think it comes down to I can't remember what the actual quote is, but it's like you're the average of the five people that
Yeah.
you hang around with the most. And I think that is so true. And even I've seen it just with me at a younger age. A lot of my peers are not necessarily buying real estate. And so I've had to get around older people who are in real estate. And it rubs off on you. It truly does. And I don't think people recognize that. But if you spend a day at Total Wealth Academy or with a group of real estate investors, it will rub off on you. You leave there with a little itch going, man, I got to buy some rentals. Man, this is cool. Man, how can I build my wealth? And so I think if someone can get in just the right room and get around some cool people and the encouragement, I mean, that's really people just need to feel encouraged that they can go do something. And so as I said, if it's Total Wealth Academy or if it's another program, just having that encouragement of people around you is so beneficial.
Yeah. And we go back to books too. I think that I always say that I had 40 different mentors. Now, only about five of them were human beings. The other 35 or so were people from books, CDs, videos. I consider Tony Robbins one of my mentors, even though I've only met him, just briefly, just to shake his hand. But because I read those books, that rubbed off on me, as you call it. And it encouraged me to take actions that I would have never done if I hadn't have been around that. And then that brings up a problem. 70% of Americans don't read nonfiction books. And I this is brutal, but do you realize how arrogant you must be to not read nonfiction books? You must think you know it all. Um, when you get, do you ever get down?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think that's the reality of being an entrepreneur, a business owner. And I would say it is lonely, as Bruce stated, like that is a real feeling that I've had before. I know other investors, I know I've had that before. And I think that's when you really got to buckle down and get around the right people for encouragement. As I said, I truly believe in, hey, you're really the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And so, maybe looking around saying, hey, are these people really encouraging me and uplifting what I'm doing, my business I'm starting, my another journey, or are they, criticizing me and demeaning me, which is not helping at all. And that's attributing to some of my loneliness. So you've really got to do kind of a detox of your friends and say, hey, let's be real here. Who do we need to keep on the list?
Yeah, I actually ended up keeping two lists. I have a list of my millionaire friends,
Yep.
but I still have all my old friends too. But I do recognize that we talk about different things when we're together.
Yep.
When I'm with my average friends, we're talking about sports, we're talking about TV and the news and crap like that. But when I'm with my millionaire friends, we're talking about assets, income, relationships, travel, building wealth. It's totally different. Totally different. I still love both groups of friends,
Yeah.
but you got to recognize where your friends sit
Yeah.
in those categories.
That's great. Yeah, I agree. I think that's huge. And as I said, I think it's tough when you grow up around folks or quote old friends, those people you can still have in your life, but just understand, hey, where do you want to be? Because sometimes being around those people 24/7 is not going to get you in the rooms that you need to be in. So I think you've done a very good job of that, of, hey, obviously you can still keep those friends, but also having another group of friends and mentors to help you in the real estate business side of things as well.
Yeah, there's a funny phrase from Les Brown. If you know Les Brown, he's a motivational speaker. He's really more of an inspirational speaker, I guess. But he said this. He goes, if you hang out with nine losers, pretty soon you'll be the 10th. But the reverse is true too. If you hang out with nine millionaires, pretty soon you'll be the 10th. It's all about who you're hanging with, because that's where you learn, that's where you get your motivation, encouragement, and you better have a group of people that are motivating and encouraging. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, Tell me a little bit about your future goals. I know your future goal is to buy a big apartment complex, which I hope
Yep.
you'll let me help you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the future goal is, I've kind of hit where I have, quote, financial freedom per se throughout my own portfolio. So now it's going to the next level of, hey, how can I buy bigger deals? I got connected with you through mutual friends of ours from Old Capital out of Dallas who finance a lot of commercial multifamily deals. So learning the bigger commercial side of things, that 29 unit deal is the only the second commercial deal that I've done, which is a smaller apartment. So if you can figure out a way to take kind of what I've learned now and then transition that into buying, as you said, 100, 200, 300 unit complexes, that's ultimately the bigger goal. And hopefully there's some nicer A class properties sprinkled in there too, instead of all the C class properties.
You know, this is going to sound funny. Do you know my favorite is the C and B?
Yeah.
I like the A's, but you've got to buy them right.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do because they're A-class properties.
Yep. Exactly.
But we have one member who I didn't like the deal. I was like, man, this is an A-class property. You're paying full price for it. He went in there at he ended up getting a lower price, but he went in there and just completely redid the entire management system and was able to raise his net operating income substantially.
Yep.
And it ended up being a good deal. But again, it's because he bought it right.
Yep. Yep.
Where it's much easier to buy a C class and turn it to a B, um, just because you're doing all the rehab, you've got that big discount because it needed rehab, things like that. So I actually like all of them, C, B, and A. But my favorite, give me that C class with hair all over it, just ugly, beat up. Let
Yeah.
me turn it
Well,
to a B.
that's where most of the opportunity is, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So in your future, um, where do you see yourself? You are in the Dallas area now,
Yep. Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity up there. Um, do you see yourself with trying to focus primarily on the Dallas Fort Worth area, or are you open to other areas?
I like Dallas Fort Worth just because I'm pretty hands-on, so I like to be able to drive to the assets. Now I understand on bigger deals, I'll probably have a management company, so it'll be a little less hands-on. But I that's one of my favorite personal parts about real estate is just I think it's cool to look and say, hey, I own that piece of property. I think it's cool to see a tenant walking out of the building smiling, going, wow, they really like to live and my property. So
Yeah,
I enjoy looking at it. I enjoy being at the properties. Now, I know with scale, you got to mostly branch out to different markets. So that might look like going to some other core markets in Texas, Houston. I own some property in College Station, about an hour and a half outside of Houston. So
yeah,
doing stuff over there. So I think there is tremendous opportunity. But I do really like being able to be as close to the assets as possible so that I can drive by it. If there's ever an issue, I can run over there. It just has made it easier for me. And it's one of the things I enjoy is I feel like I'm a part of the asset because I can go drive by it. It's kind of a pride of ownership thing. I really enjoy
yeah.
that part of real estate is you can go look at it and say, wow, I own this place and I'm making tenants' lives better because I own this nice property that they get to live in.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially at the beginning. But, once you scale up, you may buy stuff in Phoenix
Yeah.
or Miami. It's going to expand and you're not going to be able to go see it all the time. So, in conclusion, what would be your advice to a person who says, "Hey, I'm impressed. I'd like to be more like Connor. I'd like to start buying some income producing assets." What would be your recommendation for somebody?
I think number one, you got to start with what does success look like for you? There's so many people who say, "Hey, I want to buy real estate, but do you want to buy apartments? Do you want to buy single family? Do you want to buy industrial?" There's so many different avenues of real estate. People get into this analysis paralysis mode where they have so much information they're intaking and then they freeze out and they don't do anything. So you've got to number one, I would challenge someone to sit down and really write down what does success in real estate look like for you? Is that owning your first, 20 unit apartment complex? Is it doing a syndication deal? Maybe you just want to be a limited partner in a syndication deal and then you want to go from there or you want to be a general partner. So you need to understand what it is you want to do and then branch off from there. So for me, it's a lot of cold calling, a lot of meeting with sellers, especially on these residential properties. Now, if I'm doing commercial, that would be, hey, we need to build some broker relationships here. So building your network of people around you, but ultimately, I think it all goes back to what do you want to do? Because you can't just say I want to be in real estate because there's so many different avenues of real estate. And as I said, people get so much information that they're fed and then they just freeze out and they don't take action. So you've got to nail down what it is you want to do. For me, when I first got started, it was, hey, I want to own just my first small multifamily rental property. So I bought a duplex. So I went, found an area of duplexes. I cold called each one of those sellers. After 400 cold calls, 450 cold calls, I finally found a guy who was willing to sell, and I bought it with seller financing and almost put no money down.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that was huge for me, is just taking action. I think people who take action, I will say it, there's a ton of people that are way smarter than me that just don't take action and then they don't find success. So if you can take action and figure out, so that might, as I said, if you're looking for smaller multifamily, you might want to cold call or look on the market, the MLS system, whatever it is that's in your market. And then if you're in the commercial stuff, typically you're going to be meeting with brokers or meet with the brokerage community to figure out, hey, who is buying the deals? What's the best way for me to get on these lists to get the deal sent to me? So just narrowing down what you want to do, because there's millions of people who say, I want to be in real estate, but they don't narrow down what they want to do, what asset they want to go after. And once you pick that asset, figure out what's the best way to buy this asset. And for me, that was my first duplex, and I cold called the guy. I bought it with seller financing. And then that's led me to build my portfolio the way it is today.
Yeah, having clearly defined goals. I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think people can hear that enough. Get your goals written down.
Yep.
Get them written down somewhere. Um, I used a 3 foot by 2 foot poster when I was in my 20s, and I had everything written down on there, from the woman I wanted to marry to the assets I wanted to own. Everything gets written down, and it changes your life. Your success rate goes way up. Uh, so I'm glad you said that.
I think I love that. I am a huge advocate for writing your goals down. Not sure what the percentages are, but you are more likely to achieve a goal if you physically write it down. One a quick tip for the listeners here. I get note cards, and I do a spiritual goal, a financial goal, a business goal, a health and wellness goal, and just I get them laminated, and then I'll put them in my car, on my bathroom mirror. That way they're always in your sight, and so you're constantly thinking about them, and it's really helped me been able to achieve a lot of cool goals. And so I'm with you there. I really like writing your goals down. I mean, it will totally set you up for success.
Yeah, there's no doubt. All right, Connor, I sure appreciate you coming on the podcast today. That was great information, very encouraging.
Steve, thanks for having me. This has been incredible. You guys rock, and thanks for all Total Wealth Academy does as well.
All right, thank you, Connor. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Steve.
All right, thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back next week. Take care.